the Scrunch Creator Economy Show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Danielle, for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here.
I know. And now we have known each other maybe a couple of years now through another program. But I am just excited to share your backstory with the Scrunch community because it's so interesting. So maybe that's the best place to start. So you are a creator, you have a thriving business, but maybe even let's start with what happened before then. How did you get into it? How did you actually get here?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I'm the founder of I Heart Songwriting Club, which is an online songwriting club and mentorship space. We run courses and programs for songwriters and artists to live their dreams, essentially. And how it began is, I think just such a typical founder story really is that I really struggled to write songs, like big time struggle. I had major self-doubt, mental health issues. I would struggle to even write 4 songs a year. Now, for a songwriter who wants a career as a songwriter, you can't write 4 songs a year. You've got to write hundreds of songs a year, essentially.
Wow.
And I really struggled because there was no sort of spaces to develop those skills. Yeah. There was a real gap in unless you're a published songwriter already, being guided on your journey. And that opportunity is a bit of A, luck, and B, skill, and C, who you know. That wasn't the world that I was in, and I'm still not in that world. So where could I go to develop those skills? And I'd come from being a trained musician, studying music at university, undergrad, postgrad, teaching music, even playing all around the world. So I was a very skilled musician. I sung backing vocals for, people like Keith Urban and Michael Bublé. So
I did not know that about you. Oh my God.
Wow. There's so many stories, but I was a pro musician, earning money for being a musician. But because I was so polished on the outside, people saw these great shows at the entertainment center or, the convention center or wherever that was. On behind the scenes was a major struggle for me creatively and creative, and I don't know if there are some things that align with other creative pursuits, but when I learned when I learned music, I learned theory, I learned how to play notes on a page, I learned how to maybe even expressively play those notes, but I never learned how to create.
Wow. Yeah.
And to create is actually quite opposite to, in some ways, not all the ways, but in some ways to following the rules of theory. And it's very opposite to reading the notes on the page. In fact, there are no notes, you make them up, you know?
Yeah.
And that was where I was at in my 30s. Like, this is not the path I want to be walking. So how can I get on board with that? Is that I needed a space to develop those skills. So I just basically, like, the songwriters around me, I was like, are you guys struggling with this too? And there was one particular story with a student of mine who was really beating herself up in not dissimilar ways to myself around her creative process. And I just said, look, I'm done with struggling. I'm done with it. I'm no longer going to struggle with that. So songwriting should be fun.
Totally.
Right?
Well, it seems creative, so you would think it would be fun, but I understand the struggle.
So we're going to make this fun, and we're going to do this frequently. We're not going to get our bees in a bonnet over, can I even say that? I can say if I want. So.
You say whatever you like.
We're just going to do this. And so that began the process of writing a song a week and in an hour, because if we didn't have a time limit around that, then we would spend all week trying to perfect a song. And that was not the point of this. The point is, like, let's just write a song a week. And after 10 weeks, I've written 10 songs. That's more than I'd written in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Wow.
And then that was the beginning of what became a little email songwriting club, which became a business 2 years later, which is now about to turn 8 years old. And
wow.
Over 1,200 members from 23 countries around the world. We've written 25,000 songs, and I have written 412 songs in 412 weeks.
Holy crap. That's unreal.
I'm a different person because
you are a different person.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Oh my God, that is incredible. And I want to go back to something that you just said around we don't get taught to create, because I feel like that is a struggle, not just for songwriters. I feel like as human beings, we go to school and we learn how to follow a set of rules. I remember my own journey. I didn't know you could start a business. I went to school and I got a full-time job, and my parents had the same jobs for their whole lives. And I thought that's what you did. I thought you saved for a house, and I thought that was the path. And it wasn't until I read a book where it was like this online business stuff. And I was like, oh my God, you're telling me you can just invent stuff? You can just create the life that you want. So I absolutely love that you have built a business around teaching people how to create and how to foster that in people, because I feel like that is a life skill that's transferable across every industry.
You're right. It is transferable once you understand, how to, get clear on that vision for yourself. And then what are some, reasonable goals that you can set out to achieve within a short frame of time along the path to achieving the biggest goal that you want, or bigger goals that you want. Then it's just a matter of unfolding those next steps. And anything is really achievable if you have a plan to achieve that. And I want to say structure, but then also learning the skills of commitment and discipline, and not sort of thinking they're negative skills. In fact, they're just such amazing traits that just take you so much higher.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you foster those traits in yourself?
Well, I have a Saturn in my first house, firstly.
Damn it, you've got the advantage.
well, I mean, that I know I have a love of astrology, but firstly, like, Saturn on my descendant means either there's going to be some, fears, or like, what's the word, like decreasing around self, but it also could be structure and commitment and wisdom that you bring to how people see you. So I think early in my 20s, people saw my fear, they saw me feeling less than, or actually having quite a strict rules imposed on me, but switch that around, and it's like, actually, I understand structure and commitment, and I bring the wisdom of my learning to everything that I do. But besides astrological support, how do you foster that? Well, I mean, I mentor quite a lot of artists, and a lot of people really struggle with next steps. So I would say it is important to have a very clear picture, whether that's a visual picture or written down, but some sort of where do you want to go? What do you see yourself doing? And how does it feel when you are doing that? What's the dream, and how can you get specific about where you want to be doing that? And what does it feel like when you're doing those things? And then if you can't, or if you don't know how to do this yourself, but sort of come back to a place of, well, what could I achieve in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months? And then what are some things? So commitment really just looks like continuing to walk the path that will get you there. So what can you do on a daily or every other day, or even just once a week? I mean, that's what I did for many years before I took my songwriting to the next level. But what can you do once a week for an hour?
Yeah.
Now, I get that not everybody is, firstly, not everyone is like anyone else, but also I also get not everyone is like me. I'm a bit next level commitment, right? I'm quite next level, and I won't compromise on that now that I know how good I feel from doing this. I won't compromise it on how, what I'm getting out of this beyond feeling, like career outcomes too. It's just so tremendous that for me to compromise on 1 hour a week, there is a big problem,
Yes.
So I think a lot of people do get distracted by life, and they let external points outside of themselves, like they are magnetized to those things.
Yes.
I've learned to not be magnetized to anything outside of myself and what I feel aligns with me. That's taken a lot of work to do that too. And I speak about this. I have a podcast called The Magic of Songwriting. And whether you're a songwriter or not, it's really great for creatives. And I talk about, so my episode that comes out tomorrow is called How to Not Let Life Get in the Way of You Living Your Dreams. How to not let life, because everyone,
oh my God, that's so good.
Clarity around that.
Yeah.
Unless you have clarity around that, your cat getting sick, your dad, look, I talk about my dad dying and me writing songs all through that, and like how easy that would have been to have stopped writing in that time.
Yeah.
If I stopped writing in that 11 months, maybe I would have never continued again. But not only did I continue writing, but I continued to reconnect with the expression that that creative space provides me with. And what I did within that space is I processed, I got out the feelings within me that were in me. And as a result of that, I feel like that whole experience of my dad dying was so nourishing.
Wow.
I mean, how many people can say that an experience with
got goosebumps.
parent dying can be nourishing? It was full and nourishing. And I just felt this deep sense of connection and love. Like I was actually being of purpose in a different way in that space. And I shared with him my songs. And prior to that, I hadn't seen my dad for 9 years because he'd been estranged. So it's not like we were even, you know, it's not like I saw him every day. It's like, okay, now here you are back in my life and you're dying. So how do I want to be in this? Who do I want to be here? And I think every day we have an opportunity to recommit to what really matters to us. And I think those big life changes, when, you know, a parent is dying or something like that, it's harder. Like it's of course my priority is there, but why can't the priority be you and that? Like it's not a you or that.
Yeah, totally.
Like, so coming back to the original question, how do you foster those traits? What can you do in a small capacity every week that will get you along the way? And I mean, like, don't compromise on it. Like turn up crying, turn up yelling at the thing, but just turn up.
Yeah.
Eventually the access to turning up to that space will be with more ease. And at some point it will be with joy.
I love that so much. And the big thing I'm hearing as well is intention. You know, I love that you said, you know, every day is an opportunity to reconnect with what's important to you or where you're going. And you know, I feel that about life sometimes is it just moves so quickly, and you are right, the cat gets sick or you're moving house or, you know, there's kids yelling or there's something. It's so easy to just let life unfold and and
play
move
with it.
you. Absolutely. And if you're not intentional about, you know, and you're right, it doesn't have to be every minute of every day if it's an hour a week, but you're right, if you can't give yourself an hour a week to potentially achieve your dreams, then maybe they're not that important, or maybe you need to reflect on priorities.
Well, here's even something harsher. They just actually won't be achieved.
Yeah. Yep. You're right.
If you can't give at least 1 hour a week to achieve your dreams, you will never achieve your dreams.
Yes.
Because at some point when it goes from tantrum to ease and joy to show up to that space, at some point you're going to want to do more of that. So I tantrum to show up to my songwriting for years, for 1 hour a week. I tantrumed that. I was like, don't want to do it. I'm going to put it off to the last minute. And the to do that anymore. I'm okay with just showing up and just writing my song. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I'm going to write it again. And I'm going to spend more hours writing songs. And now who else do I want to write with? Like it brings so much joy because I am seeing the results and I'm feeling the results of that.
Yeah. That's so awesome. I love, you know, that you don't have to show up perfectly, because I think that again is something that we block for ourselves. Like, oh, I'm not in the mood. You know, I'll do it when I feel better. I'll do it when I have more time. I'll do it but you're right. Just show up as is.
Consistency is far more beneficial than perfection.
I think that in itself is a good life motto as well, not just for this, but for everything. You know, it's like perfect holds people back. I know I do a little bit of sales coaching, and if everyone's always just obsessed with my thing's not ready yet. I was like, your thing will never be ready. And you will never feel ready, you know, but just showing up and that consistency. And you're always surprised at what your definition of perfect is versus the rest of the world. I feel like we're our own harshest critic sometimes.
I think you're spot on. I hear everything that you're saying. And I think the trap that people fall into is and we all know what we all have these people in our world, whether they're people at the dog park or people at the shops or our cousins or maybe even our parents. Yes, you don't want to put that out until you're ready, right? And people will confirm exactly what you want them to confirm. And I get that they're doing it because of all the right reasons. They wouldn't want to do that either. But most people aren't living with an unlimited vision for themselves.
Yes.
Most people are living with a limited vision for themselves. So get yourself in communication and in collaboration and in community with people who have an unlimited vision of themselves and yourselves. And that person probably say, hey, you're never going to be ready, but just take the next step. Just show up. Just do the thing. Show up imperfectly and show up again and again and again. And I bet after a year, you're going to feel really different about doing that.
I love that. Yes. So tell me then, being a creative and that, I guess, method of making income is different to being a business owner, and you have walked both paths and you have done it very successfully. What had to change for you from thinking about yourself as a creator to thinking about yourself as a business owner?
I always worked for myself. So when I was a musician at 17 years old, playing at the old Sheraton in Brisbane hotel, invoicing the Sheraton hotel for 2 weeks, I always worked for myself. I was always a sole trader. You know, even when, I got paid for singing backing vocals for Buble, I invoiced somebody for that job, right?
Yeah.
So I've always worked for myself. In some way, I've always been a small business. And then transitioning. Thank you. That's the word. Transitioning to. There's a couple of transitions here. So I transitioned from doing other people's songs to my own. There was a value and a worth, growth or opportunity to learn more about myself that came up at that point, so I could sing, Billy Joel and Joni Mitchell covers, everyone loves, or I can sing Francesca de Valence songs, which I'm not sure if anyone loves.
I'm sure they do.
Well, that's where I was feeling at the time, and that was the value as like shifting from being a small business that could play other people's songs to a small business that now wanted to play my own songs. So there was something around that shift. And then like even the industry will pay more for you to play covers than to play your originals when you're starting out. So I went from making about 100 grand playing covers to making zero money playing original music, pretty much. Wow. And that's why I started teaching as the day job that funded my ability to now, bring my business as an original artist together so I could make albums. Now, albums cost tens of thousands of dollars, and then promotion of those things. So it became a different business at that point, and I was definitely more creative focused. And then coming into, so teaching funded my ability to do that, because possibly the same with other creative industries, but unless you're in the top, echelon of artists and songwriters, you're not making enough money to live day to day. You're just not, unless, and here's the caveat, unless you're willing to be on the road for 200 days of the year touring. And I just felt a bit burnt out from that sort of thing. And, I did many tours and I just broke even one time, and I maybe made $5 another time. When you look at all the flights, the car hire and the equipment hire, and the, when you can't stay on someone's couch, you have to buy a motel room for the night, all those sorts of things. Like there is a way to make money in that realm, selling merchandise, of course. And then coming to a place of having a business that was based around creativity, but it really is a business. Like iHeart Songwriting Club, it started as a club for 2 years. And at some point, the list of people that wanted to join grew so big that if I didn't make it a business, if I didn't create a business model that I could make a service available for people, I would never be able to reach the 100 people that were on my on my waiting list. So I got my head around how I could do that, and I was like, again, it was like, I don't want to charge a lot of people for it. And I still don't. The club is the same price as when we first put it out to people to buy 6 years ago, but we've got lots of add-ons. So, you know, we've got courses for beginners, we've got mentor programs for people who want to take their songwriting to the next level, and one-on-one coaching and those sorts of things as well. So it is a business. I'm not sure I've answered your question, but there was some really interesting, you know, sort of value propositions that changed along the way.
Well, it feels like mindset shifts. It feels like you were kind of, like things sort of, okay, now this is the value, or this is the direction I want. And it's a little bit different than it used to be. So that means I'm going to have to change the products and services that I offer, or, you know, I've got so many people interested here. If I don't create a business model around this, well, what am I doing? So that I like the mindset shifts and the awareness of where I'm at, and then what next step I need to take.
Everything was in response to something. So I created the business of the club in response to the list. I created the mentorship program in response to the emails that were the emails that I was getting from songwriters. I created the course because beginners who joined the club were a bit out of their comfort zone. You know, there was always something in response. So I created in response, and I've come with sole trader musician business mindset to this, which is, you know, probably not where most business owners come. You know, they probably come with, I don't know, some business training.
No, we don't. You're all just winging it.
So, I mean, I've gotten myself business coaches, and I still have them because I mean, like, without that, I mean, it's much easier to want to stay comfortable, right?
Oh, totally. But nothing happens there.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm playing with at the moment is like, and this is the first time I'm saying this aloud. Like, I have always desired to be really, really wealthy. Like, I love that. I'm not ashamed of that. Like, I'm not ashamed of that. But I just speak about it. I was like, you know, I want to live on the water. I actually want to live on the water. Like, I'd love it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need multiple properties, but I'll take another one, you know, on the Mediterranean.
That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. I won't say no.
I'm not saying I'm private jet material, but, you know, look, I'll take it. I'm not going to hold myself back. But, and then there's the sort of guilt of like, where would that money come from? Would it come from my songwriters that would pay me? And I'm like, oh my God, no. And then I shut it off because I'm going to where that money would come from. Right. Of course, I could just, you know, write loads of hits and people could stream them. So there's also like that, right? But there's what I envision, and then where I almost like it as an attachment to what that might mean, and all very unhelpful. But what I'm getting on board with is like, I know I'm the person, and I've proven it time and time again, is that you give me a resource, I'm going to share it with my community.
Yeah.
You give me wealth, I'm going to make so many amazing opportunities for people as a result of that. Yes, we can do albums. You come into my studio, we're going to record an album. And no, it's not going to cost you $40,000 as it always does, because it doesn't need to, because the inflated music industry costs. You know, there are other ways to do things. So it's getting on board with an unlimited mindset. And unlimited vision, and not being attached to how that's going to happen, but knowing that when I'm there and how I will share that with my community and the world, who's not going to want to be a part of that? Like, I want to be a part of that. People will want to be a part of that. And I realize, I don't know how we got here, but we're here.
Well, but it's interesting because it's reminding me of somebody once said to me, impact and making money don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can make a lot of money and be wealthy and actually do great things. In fact, you can do more great things if you have the means. So
Dolly Parton, she buys books for school children. Yeah. And she's phenomenally wealthy.
Yeah.
Phenomenally wealthy. Does anyone like resent her for that? I mean,
absolutely not.
Maybe some people do.
Maybe, but
no. They're not in my realm or my world. I just think she's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. So, and that's it. I wonder how many people are, I love, you keep using the term unlimited mindset or unlimited vision for yourself. And I just love that, because I feel like we put caps on ourselves, and they're a result of many things, likely, but you know, how you grew up, or the friendship group, or and you know, sometimes the unwillingness to say it aloud is that, oh, I don't want people to think that I just want to make money, or I don't want people to think I want this or like that. So, you know,
I want to make money.
Smaller. I want to make money too. I'm in that club.
And also what this, you know, assumes you've had to do to make that, all those sorts of things. Yeah, it's just incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if more people get on board, and the thing is too, that's interesting is there is no, like, the pie's big enough for everyone. It's not, if you and I get wealthy, other people can't. There is unlimited supply. So why
it's not even a pie, because a pie has borders and edges and a whole amount. It's bigger than that.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. But it's true. It's like, just because we're rising doesn't mean somebody else isn't. We can all rise together. We can all have unlimited supply.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm totally on board with that.
I love it too. It's awesome. I think the more we talk about it though, that I feel like, it's so funny. I have to show you this. I have talk about money written on a piece of paper here, because I was literally on a call yesterday talking to people about how, or it was a podcast or something, and I was like, we just don't talk about it enough. Everybody is just, money's such a taboo subject for a lot of people that I think as a, you know, collective, whether it's business owners or creators or whatever, we just tend to think it in our minds and not share it with enough people. So I love that you said that. That's so good. So
it is another resource that helps to go where we want to go, just like the amazing people in our world, and just like the physical resources that we have. It is a resource, and it's necessary to have.
Absolutely.
Totally desirable.
Well, we live in a world where you have to have money, so more of it's never a bad thing. So tell me, for people who are just starting out, so people who maybe have some kind of skill, have some kind of creator profile, but are maybe struggling with the business element. So how do they create a business around a passion or a skill set? Do you have any tips for people who are just getting started in this space?
Yes, I do. In fact, over COVID, I ran a mentoring program to help artists to build an online business for themselves using their innate gifts and talents. And it's been so beautiful to see those flourish, and, you know, creators making money from, you know, whether it's subscription businesses online or whether they're selling something in a different way. So what I recommend is that you really get clear on the impact that you already make in the world. Like, and you might need to ask people, what impact do I make in the world? You know, how do you see that? And then you can package that up. There is a way, and oh my God, that cup.
I know. Oh my
surreptitiously bring that into the chat.
all my pretty cups are dirty. Oh, this is obviously the man cup in the house.
Who are you going to call? I would say, you know, get clear on. So actually, I would even come back before that. Like, what I do with all of the artists that I mentor and the songwriters that I mentor, the very first thing we do is we get really clear on what your values are and what you believe your purpose is in the world. That's for no one else to decide but you. And there are definitely some beautiful exercises you can do around getting clear on those values and what your purpose is in the world. Because if you can make choices based on, does this align with my values? Am I getting to fulfill my purpose by doing this, or is this helping to fulfill my purpose? Amazing. You're just going to be constantly aligned and magnetized to those things because you've got clarity. And then the second part of that is to understand what impact you're already making through the work you're doing. Are you helping people to be inspired? Are you helping them to connect with their emotions and their feelings? Do you help people to deal with grief? Do you help people to with, you know, parents with their children in some way? You know, I met some songwriters who write children's songs, and that helps the parents, you know. So it's sorts of ways to get clear on what the impact you make can be by asking others around you. And I would do that as personally as possible, so you can get as much data as possible on that. Opinions, really, but you can still use it as data. And then you can put together a business. You know, if that's what we're talking about here, is taking your creativity to a business level, is like, what sort of service could I offer as a result? And how could I package that up in a way that allows me to thrive as a business, you know? And when you start out, I suppose you don't want to have too many options for what people can buy. Like when I started out doing business coaching, I already had a club for $55 that people could buy. And it's such a low value offering that it was like, actually my coach was like, you've got all of this low hanging fruit, is what she called it. People emailing me all the time, asking questions. She said, get them all together on a Zoom call and start mentoring them. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
Can I do that? Yeah, that's so
brilliant.
Cool.
And within 6 weeks, I'd made more money than I'd made in the club.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah. And I started paying myself a wage.
Yep.
Because right. So instead of, you know, a $55 for 10-week program, now I can charge, you know, hundreds of dollars a month, each month, or to be able to personally service people in a different way.
Yeah.
Group service, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, I have 5 spots for one-on-ones. That's it. Like I can't service more than that, but I can service this amount of this amount of this, and this amount of this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then every time I had a conversation with somebody, if I felt that there was a really good offer, and whether it's like, actually, this is the best place for you, or actually, this is the best place for you. No, this is the best place for you. And if I couldn't, then I would say, I can't help you right now, but maybe I would go to this person or do this thing. But that way, every time I had a conversation, I could offer them, you know, some sort of entry to one of the 3 programs I had, which I've got a lot more now, and I basically can help any songwriter at any level.
But that's over time, like as
that's
you said,
over time, 8 years.
You've been there for 8 years. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you start out, I would probably just have one thing that would allow you, you know, if you could sell 10 of them or 12 of them, or maybe even, you know, under 30, which is quite doable, that you can pay yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because then you're going to feel the value of, is it you feel the value? No, you would feel the.
Well, I love to feel that what being able to make money through a product actually feels like, because I find that really interesting. Like I remember the first time somebody paid for something that I just had an idea, and it was like, you know, a decade ago now, but I still remember that first sale, and they paid me like $99 for something that now we'd charge $5,000 for. But I was like, you know, you want to get that first person and prove to yourself that you'll do it. But when that happens, like I think your mind kind of opens up and like, oh, okay, it's now possible. How do we grow this?
Yep. Absolutely. And there are some really simple, and you would no doubt teach this or espouse this to your mentees, you know, ways to ensure that you meet your minimum numbers every month.
Yep.
So that your business continues to tick over. And I've definitely fallen into I'm not doing that stuff. Oh, that's why my business is not growing. You know, and you've got to be really honest with yourself, you know. And so now I just make 20 minutes every Monday and I do that work.
Yep.
Because if I do that work, my business grows.
Yes. And I love that you just said, you know, maybe there's things we don't really want to do. But if we schedule them in, get them done, they're done.
Yeah.
I do that like with like just business reporting. You know, it's so important to look at, okay, what is the health of everything? What are all my numbers? What's working? What's not working? But it's kind of an annoying admin job. So I have it in my calendar, and that's a meeting that I have with myself. I sit down, I do it all, and I'm always surprised. Oh, cool. Okay. I kind of thought things were not as great as that, but you know, you always, I think, downplay things in your head, but then you sit down, do the work, and like, oh, cool, things are good. This is working really well. I'm going to do more of that. But you know, sometimes scheduling time to do those things and having that commitment to yourself is really important.
Yes, it always moves forward when you show up to those things. It always does. And if you just follow and I mean, business owners, creatives, all people that have to do some sort of reach out, because creatives are always doing reaching out, like whether it's like media, want to let you know about a new album that I've put out, or you know, I've got tickets for my show available. But same with business, it's sales at the end of the day. When you show up, I want to say when you show up unemotionally, you may be emotional about it, but if you do it, eventually you start to see that I didn't need to get emotional about it. I could have just done it without the emotion. That would have been far less fatiguing and efforting. And here I am getting the results. And that only really comes from doing it. And honestly, like having somebody to support you through that is just so good for accountability. I also feel like, so when I did my very first business coaching, I spent $30,000 in the first year.
Wow.
And I was terrified that if I didn't make that money back, that would be it. So I used that as a firecracker to make sure that I did, I think that's a lot of money, but maybe that's the sort of scare tactic I needed to give myself, right?
It's true though. Like, sometimes we need that kind of, you know, scare tactic or whatever it is that kick up on, whether it's an accountability person that's just that, oh my God, if I don't do it, I've got to tell that person that I bloody didn't do it again. Or if it's, oh my God, I've paid money that I cannot afford to lose, so I'm going to make this happen. Like, depending on what it is for you, having that motivator in place, I think is a really good idea.
And at some point, that motivation can become more inspiration. Like, I get it. I don't need it from an external point of view, but I mean, starting out, I needed that guidance. Now my mentors are around skill development, less so about accountability, because I already have those checks and balances in place myself.
Yeah.
That can change. And I know I get excited about having a meeting with my mentors. It's like, it's more about business strategy and development. It's like, woo, this is like still uncomfortable, but you know,
it's just a different thing.
I've moved past the point of how to make money. I know how to make money now. How can I grow and scale that to a place that I hadn't considered? And where am I holding myself back? And often it's just even having in the conversation that I realize my own limitations. And I'm like, now that I see it, thank you for allowing me to see that. I'm going to go and take the lid off that.
Yeah. And I love that too. The learning never stops. You know, it's different at the start. You're kind of going, okay, how do I make money? How do I figure out online business? How do I figure out the tools and the structures? And then it's like, oh, cool, nailed that. All right. How do I, you know, make sure everything I do is providing bigger and better value for the people that are paying me money? And then you're right. And okay, how do I level up in business? It's just a constant growth and evolution.
Yeah. How do you recommend creatives put business strategy together?
I agree with you to get a mentor. I think there is so much information and roadmaps out there that you don't need to struggle anymore. I think it's really powerful when people have a passion or a skill, and when they can create a business around it and provide value to other people. The businesses are always so interesting and create a lot of value. And I think the business side is kind of done. There's so many programs, videos, resources that you can go to find out how to build a website, how to charge people money, how to do your invoicing. And there's so many tools now for creators that help them with managing their finances or how to sell or whatever it might be. I just think that if you find a community that has the information that you feel you're lacking, don't reinvent the wheel and don't struggle. Just tap into that community, ask questions, read the resources, follow the videos, and dedicate that time to that growth.
And can I ask you another question?
Please.
Now I've become the interviewer.
That's fine. I'll talk all day if you let me.
How would creatives know if their business idea would work?
I love this question so much because I have made this mistake a lot of times in creating something and building something without asking anybody for money first. And now I never do that. I now go, I have this, what I think is a brilliant idea, what I think is solving a real problem, what I think people will pay money for, but I won't touch it unless somebody commits to buy it or will actually buy it from me. So I always say to creatives or even anyone with a business idea, take an hour to build a free landing page, use a Squarespace or whatever. You can literally drag and drop and do it yourself in an hour, and go and try and sell it to somebody. So if you can find a potential customer and get them to pay you some money, then that validates your idea. Because it does go back to the money conversation. You can do all of these amazing things, but if no one's going to pay you money, you don't have a business. You know, you do need to pay yourself at some point. Otherwise you're, I guess, a charity. And if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But if you want a business, you do have to make money. So my advice to anyone is go and try and sell it first, and then scramble to make it amazing.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, great.
So good. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. You are absolutely incredible. And I am like, I have to go away now and do all of these things that I've just been inspired to do. So I know if I'm feeling like that, everybody else will as well. So I'm so grateful for your time and insights.
Thank you, Danielle, so much for having me. And thank you for all your support over the last few years too. It's a real delight to know you.